So, first of all, Happy New Year, everyone. I mean, I know I'm totally recording this on January 2nd, meaning it isn't the new year anymore, but hey, the last video I recorded was in 2025, so this is my first video of 2026. And the first thing I'm going to be reviewing this year, Wake Up Dead Man, the third film in Rian Johnson's Knives Out franchise. Now, the original Knives Out, released in 2019, I would consider one of my favourite films. It's either my fifth favourite film or my sixth favourite film, depending on, well, not necessarily depending on how I feel, but which version I remember. It either comes before or after The Princess Bride. But I will say I do love the original Knives Out. The sequel, released in 2022, Glass Onion, I thought was okay. I thought it was still a really good film, but it didn't quite top my number one. For me, Wake Up Dead Man sits in the middle of those two. I like it more than Glass Onion, possibly don't like it as much as the original Knives Out, but still, it is a really good film. Now, in this particular installment, our kind of surrogates person who kind of acts as a suspect and an assistant for Benoit Blanc is a priest named Judd Duplessis, played by Josh O'Connor. This is kind of the role that Ana de Armas's Marta Cabrera played in the first film, or Janelle Monáe's Helen Brand was in Glass Onion. He's kind of in the centre of everything. Everyone believes it's him, but then Blanc believes in his innocence, and together they help to solve the crime. Now, Judd is an assistant priest who is assigned to a church called Our Lady of Perpetual Fortitude by a bishop named Langstrom, played by Jeffrey Wright. And one of the downsides of Our Lady of Perpetual Fortitude is that it's overseen by Monsignor Jefferson Wicks, played by Josh Brolin. Now, he has a very loyal flock of regulars at his church, but he is known to be rather inflammatory. He will constantly kind of bully people. Once he finds out a person's weakness, he'll go do his sermons to kind of eventually bully them out of the church, and sees everyone who leaves as weak, and that only the truly devout will stay loyal throughout everything. However, things become more complicated for Judd when Jefferson is seemingly murdered, or seemingly dies in a cupboard inside the church during one of his sermons. Like, he steps inside there for a minute, and then a couple of seconds later he is dead, and nobody can work out why. And anyway, the police are brought in, including a police officer named Geraldine Scott, played by Family Guy and Bad Moms actress Mila Kunis, who I do like her. I like her in this role. And finding the case a little bit difficult, she calls in Benoit Blanc, once again played by Daniel Craig. Now, I do like that we know fairly early on why Blanc is there. This isn't just a case of a bit of a mystery as to why he's been called in, like it was with the first two films. Geraldine had trouble with the case, so she called in Blanc, because she thought this might interest him, which I do like. And together, Geraldine, Benoit, and Duplessis work together to solve the crime, and work out which member of Wicks's inner circle was the one to do him in. Because it's said fairly early on that Judd didn't necessarily agree with some of Wicks's practices. He then later technically stole a devil's head from a local pizzeria and bar, Il Diavolo, and threw it through the window of the church, where it somehow ends up inside the room and seemingly part of the murder. Now, other members of this case that they have to go look into and work out with everyone are a kind of devout kind of secretary of the church named Martha Delacroix, played by Glenn Close, a doctor named Dr. Nat Sharp, played by Jeremy Renner, who is mostly at the church because he and his wife went there, but since his wife divorced him, he's just kind of trying to find a way to either move on or ultimately get her to come back to him. There's a local lawyer named Vera Draven, played by Kerry Washington. There's an author named Lee Ross, played by Sherlock and James Bond actor Andrew Scott. There's a local influencer and aspiring politician named Cy Draven, played by Darryl McCormack. This is probably the most hated character in the film, but yeah. And there's also a cellist named Simone Vivain, who's mostly attending the church because she suffered an injury that seemingly limited her career, and she's looking for religion, looking for a miracle in order to help heal her. She's played by Kaylee Spaney. And I apologise if I'm mispronouncing any of these names. And you've also got the local groundskeeper who looks after the church and looks after the grounds of it, named Samson Holt, played by Thomas Hayden Church. To which, this is a really good cast, and like with the previous two Knives Out film, I did have a tough time kind of figuring out the mystery of it, which is what a good murder mystery should do. And the way they ultimately did it, I feel, well, it's slightly contrived, but at the same time it's enjoyable. Also, there are two characters who appear in two actors who appear in every single Knives Out film. One of those being Daniel Craig as Benoit Blanc, and the other being Noah Sagan. In the first film, he played one of the police officers investigating Harlan Thrombey's murder, Trooper Wagner. In Glass Onion, he played Derol, kind of a stoner-style character who lived on Miles Braun's property for some reason. I don't know if he helped maintain it or like. But in this film, he plays a guy named Nikolai, who is the owner or kind of head barman of the pizzeria and bar Il Diavolo, whom they find out about everything. And as I said, I do find this film enjoyable. I mean, especially Josh O'Connor is a really good kind of leading man for this type of film. I mean, I know most of our focus is going to be on Daniel Craig, but Josh O'Connor does a really good job here, and I can see, like, with Ana de Armas. I mean, Ana de Armas wasn't nobody before she came onto the Knives Out film. She definitely had some good acting roles, but I feel Knives Out is kind of what pushed her into the public eye, and I can see Wake Up Dead Man doing a similar thing for Josh O'Connor. Anyway, it ultimately comes down to a kind of big mystery, not only about the murder, but also about inheritance and a missing diamond, and the like. And it does turn into an enjoyably good time. Now, I don't want to spoil too much here, because I do feel, like with any good murder mystery film, you ideally should see it for yourself. But I do think it's a really intriguing mystery, and one that would be good for you to check out. Also, two other things I will say, although I'm not sure I quite remember one of them, but no, I think I mentioned Noah Sagan. But one thing that my family has said, like, there's a meme that pops up every so often, like, if you could remake any film and keep one human actor but replace the rest with Muppets, which would you choose? To which my family's standard answer for the past few years has been Knives Out, with us really saying, do Knives Out, everyone else is Muppets, but keep Daniel Craig. Well, we may have sort of got our wish here, because in the kind of last year or so, they did show a small sketch on Sesame Street involving Benoit Blanc, a puppet detective who was brought in to help solve a mystery or a crime involving Cookie Monster, Elmo, and Oscar the Grouch. To which, yeah, we sort of get there with Benoit Blanc, so I honestly can't complain about that much. As I said, Wake Up Dead Man, I probably would put it above Glass Onion but below the original Knives Out, because the original Knives Out I do think holds a special place in my heart. It is, as I said, either my 5th or 6th favourite film, but Wake Up Dead Man I feel is a really good addition to the franchise. Now apparently Rian Johnson and Daniel Craig plan to make more of these, and hey, I mean, for so many franchises that kind of either overstay their welcome or decide after 3 films, no, that's pretty much it, I'd be okay with seeing more of these. I mean, if they can come up with more interesting twists in the tale, I'd be happy to see another Knives Out film. To which they say they plan to make more, so I'm ready to see it happen. But for my first view of 2026, my first review, that is my quick review of Wake Up Dead Man, a Knives Out mystery. And if you haven't seen the film yet, I'd say check it out. It's a pretty enjoyable good time. Anyway, enjoy your 2026, and see you next time.